I have the pleasure of introducing Len Silverstein. And Vince, if you could give me a hand here, we're going to move this table off. Quick show of hands. Who's read one of Len's data modeling books? Maybe 10, 15%. Len, like many of you, has kind of a winding path to the data management community. And so he started in technical roles, in an IT capacity. I'm not sure how he transitioned into data modeling exactly. That's kind of a natural path in many ways. But it was here that he really made his reputation, his international reputation, in fact. He was the author of numerous really hefty data modeling books about universal modeling and industry models. And that's where, as a writer, a thinker, a speaker, he built his reputation initially. Then, with the emergence of data governance and data strategy, his career kind of progressed into those areas again, leading the way as a speaker and an author. And I don't know, I haven't talked to you about this, Len, but I think from observing the transitions over the past few years, it seems to me that you've eventually found your true calling in your current work.
Absolutely.
And so our theme this morning is change. I think I barely need to explain the fact that it feels to all of us like we're going through enormous change. Technologically, geopolitically, economically, the structure of business, just there's so much going on, and it's honestly at times hard to keep up. So in making the theme of this morning about change, there was nobody I could think of better to talk to us about this than Len Silverstein. He's from our community. He's been through a lot of changes himself, and his current work really focuses on human dynamics, productivity, and people-centric information strategy. So he has some great perspectives to share on this. One tiny anecdote, I was on a podcast with Len a couple of years ago, and almost in an offhand remark, he made a comment, which I think he's going to bring up this morning. But it was a great example for me of a tiny change. It was a suggestion he made, tiny change that I adopted that really has had a significant impact on my life. And I'm only not mentioning it because I don't want to spoil the surprise. So, Len, it's a pleasure to have you here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Please come up on stage.
Thank you, Tony. How are you? A lot of times we say, how are you? And people say, good. I'm actually asking you, really, how are you? There are difficult things happening in the world today. There's big changes happening in the world. Politically, economically, technologically, environmentally, perhaps personally. Some things are pretty hard, don't you think? How do we deal with the big changes happening in the world? Do you think if there's a big change that's happening in the world, is it wiser to resist it sometimes? Or to just be with it? What do you think? Yes. It depends. I'm talking to a data crowd. I've reflected upon this question, and it made me ask myself the question, what's a big change that I've been through And how did I deal with it? A big, difficult change. And I thought, well, one of the most difficult changes I went through was when I was in my 20s. My 27-year-old brother, who was one of my best friends, died suddenly in a really horrific way. And I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. He was an MIT scholar. He was a concert pianist, but more than that, he was one of the kindest people that I've ever met in my life. So what I did is I immersed myself in work. All I did was focus on achievement and success. And I achieved a fair bit, but quite honestly, I was miserable. And I said, I have to do something different. So what I did is I actually quit my job. I actually quit my career. I left my home. I sold everything that I owned, except for what I could put in a backpack. And I went traveling to India, all through Southeast Asia, with the question, how do we deal with difficult change? How do we really make the most out of life? And after studying with many teachers, after sitting in literally hundreds of days of silent meditation retreats, I found an answer, and it was mostly through experience. It's a common sense answer, but it's not common. The way to deal with it is simply to be with what is. To be with what is. I didn't want to be with what is. It was too painful. But I was able to sit with it. And by sitting with it, and by actually being with it, it completely transformed my life. I went on a completely different path from achievement and success to say, you know what? What life is really about is living well, don't you think? Living well, being of service, enjoying, and evolving. And that's so while it was a tragedy, it resulted by me looking at it and being with what is in an amazing blessing. Byron Katie is a lecturer and author. She says it like this. She says, you know, if you're not with what is, you lose, but only 100% of the time. Now, it doesn't mean to be passive. It doesn't mean to accept, to condone. It doesn't mean to approve. It means first be with what is, and then we can move and make amazing changes. The paradoxical theory of change, which is a Gestalt therapy technique, basically says the only way, in fact, we can change things is by first accepting what is. So this presentation is entitled Surf's Up, because there's big waves of change come, and some may run and go in fear and panic, and others might say, surf's up. Surf's up. Let's ride the waves of change skillfully. Now, with all the things going on, what's a big change in your life? What's a difficult change? Now, think about it, but ideally, if you have a pen, write it down. What is a big change happening in your life? Because this way, I'm going to share some principles, and perhaps you could apply it. So if you would, think about it, or ideally, write it down. What's a big change in your life? It could be at the world level. It could be at the industry level. It could be personally. What's a big change? You got one? Okay. How do we deal with these big changes, especially if they're difficult? Not with panic or overwhelm, but how can we deal with it with calmness, with wisdom, with support? I believe that there are 4 foundational principles that are really important in dealing with change. These 4 principles that I'm going to talk about in this presentation are, first of all, awareness, being present, being clear-headed, and responding intelligently. That's what awareness is. Secondly, being with the truth and story They're both valuable tools. The truth saying, what is really happening these days? And how do I frame it so I can move ahead in a wise fashion? Third, purpose. In a turbulent world, anchoring in on what is most important. And fourth, remembering we are not in this alone. We are not in this alone. Let's talk about the first one, awareness. There is a natural tendency when there's painful things happening in change, there's a tendency to say, I can't look at it, just like I did in my journey with my brother. And it hurt me, actually, by not looking at it. A lot of times we may ignore, we may suppress, we may get distracted from things, and there's a time where we just have to look at it. And the irony is if we look at it, then we can move on and create amazing changes. Let's take a look at an example. Let's say some event happens. So there was a company that said, we're going to do a systems modernization effort. And we're going to implement AI all over the organization. And they put out a notice for this, and there was a guy in data governance named Ken. And he received that notice, so that was the event. That led to thoughts and feelings from Ken. Can you imagine what the thoughts and feelings are? Oh my gosh, I'm in charge of rules, metrics, and measurements. I'm going to lose my job. AI could do this much better than I could do it. There's fear, there's feeling. So what he did actually is he said, you know what, I'm not going to go to these systems modernization meetings. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm going to hunker down. I'm going to keep my job. I got 3 kids. I got to take care of me. This is what's known as a reaction. Fight, flight, or freeze. Silence or violence, anger or shame. It's an unconscious automatic reaction, which generally leads to more events like his manager's going to him and saying, Ken, what's going on? You're not participating. Are you okay? That led to more thoughts and feelings from Ken of defensiveness and more hunkering down and more tenseness. And that led to more reactions and more events, and it kept on going round and round. And there's a technical term for this. It is called a mess. That's the technical term for it. So what can we do? What can we do? Well, the event. We can't stop the event from happening. That's like the wave. You can't stop the wave. You can't stop the systems modernization event. How about the thoughts and feelings? Can Ken stop the thoughts and feelings? What do you think? Okay, some are saying yes, no. This is a really important point. The initial thoughts and feelings we cannot stop. We're conditioned beings. We have to be with our initial thoughts and feelings. Later on, we can choose other thoughts and feelings, but the initial thoughts and feelings, that's part of being with what is. That's what I learned from the experience with my brother. And actually, that's what Ken learned. He said, you know what, this isn't working. He went on a walk with his dog in nature, according to Ken, and he was with his thoughts and feelings, and the only way he was able to do that is he did something. He interrupted and intervened. And this is probably the most important thing I'm going to say on stage when we're dealing with difficult things. What he did was he stopped. Let's do that now. If you would, just take a deep breath with me. How do you feel? This is 45 seconds we just did this. Neuroscientists say in 45 seconds we could rewire our brains, and that's what we just did. Would anybody like to do this every day? Just take 45 seconds and stop? Now, what Ken did is he stopped, but he also intervened with something else. What do you think he intervened with? Nature, yeah. He intervened with what this conference is all about. What's this conference about? Data. He intervened with the data. He said, you know what? I didn't get any notice saying I'm going to be fired. All I got was a notice about, he intervened with what's actually happening. And he said, well, what's the other data? Well, I don't actually know because I haven't been going to the systems modernization meetings. So it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should go to the systems modernization meetings, which he did. And he started connecting with people. And he started realizing, wow, there's a great opportunity here that what I can do is use AI to take care of the boring, mundane tasks that I have and check over the thousands of rules. And I could elevate myself to a strategic role, which is exactly what he did. And he realized, oh my gosh, this is a great thing. Now, this is what you call an intelligent response. And this is what I call the real BI, business intelligence. This is business intelligence. We need to interrupt. Now, what does the STOP mean? You'll see I love acronyms. Helps us remember. S, we need to create some space. To be aware, to be clear-minded, we need some space. From space, we could see the truth, which is what I saw when I did this. So it could be you take space for a year, or it could be you take a space for our breath. Once we see the truth, we're open to opportunities. That's the O in STOP. And this is not passive. When I say be with what is, this is the opposite of passive. By being with what is, with a clear mind, we are able to act and respond intelligently. So the P is we need to put in action. Okay, so the first tool was data intervention. Let's do a data intervention. But the second tool that I want to share with you is about, well, what is the truth? And how do we frame it? And that's where stories are very useful. So let's start with some definitions. We're all into business glossaries here, yes? Let's start with some definitions of, you know, I said intervene with the data. What the heck is the data? What is the definition of data? Information. You know, I've asked many industry leaders, a lot of them are here, and I've asked them, what is data? Some have said information without context. Some have said it's a recording of what's happened. Some have said, you know, it's the stuff that we collect, so when we get in trouble, we know how to explain it. Some have said, you know, it's numbers that have trust issues. Not people, but numbers. I have a different definition of data. I look back at the etymology of the word, where it came from. The etymology is it came from the Latin word datum, the singular. Datum is actually the past participle of the word dare, which means to give in Latin. It means to give. Data actually means something given. Anything that's given, it could be in a database, but it could be everything we see here, everything we hear, everything we feel is all data. It's all data. So that's why I say intervene with all the things that are given to us. Now, data is not fact. Even though some dictionary definitions will call it that, it's not fact. For example, there might be data, even in a database, saying, Len Silverstein is 7 feet tall. Now, if I start confusing that data with fact, then I'm going to be in trouble when I go to try out for the NBA. So we can't confuse data with fact. What is fact? Fact is observable, verifiable truth. It's like, okay, what is really happening? Len Silverstein is 5'11". Okay, that's moving toward truth. And then we confuse fact with story, where we automatically jump to a story. We automatically jump and we say, you know what? Ken made up a story saying, oh, I'm going to be fired, from a simple fact that he got a notice about AI. Now, we get a little confused here sometimes because they said a fact is verifiable truth. But then we get into this idea, well, what's truth? Well, there's my truth. You know, my truth is I take care of the data. Everything is okay. That's my truth. Anytime you put my in front of truth, it's actually a story. What's my truth is, I need coffee more than I need data quality. That's my truth. Okay, let's take a look at the first part, truth. These days, you ever feel like this data that comes in, how the heck do you know if it's true or not? How do you know if you can trust it? How do I know the data is factual? Okay, another acronym for you. I came up with this acronym called TRUST. T, traceability in trust. There was a legal case a couple of years ago where a lawyer cited and filed this legal case with 6 court cases. The judge looked at it, and it was very meticulous with all these names on it and details, and the judge couldn't find any details behind any of these court cases. And after a while, he went back to the lawyer and pressed the lawyer, and the lawyer finally admitted, Judge, I'm sorry, I used ChatGPT for the legal filing. There were no court cases. As a matter of fact, even in doing this presentation, I was going to tell you this really inspiring story I found through generative AI, and then I started tracing it, and I realized, oh my gosh, that was an AI hallucination. I'm glad I didn't tell you that one. Okay, reliable. We need to check it. Any data, whether it's on generative AI or any place. As a matter of fact, I also did a generative AI search where I said, these models that I published in some of my books, can you generate me a customer database? And it did in 30 seconds. I'm like, wow, that's amazing, using the models that I published in a book. But when I looked at it, there was a bunch of mistakes in it. Check it, check it, check it. And then third, is it unbiased? Anybody look at one news channel, and then they look at the opposite news channel, and it's like 2 different worlds? Now, sometimes that's a good strategy. If you're in this camp, look at the other camp and ask the opposite perspective. Opposites are very powerful. If you think, hey, AI is terrible, ask the opposite question, where is it great? If you think this person is irresponsible, ask where are they responsible? Ask the opposite questions to move toward unbiased. And then secure. Often it's tampered with. A couple of years ago also, there was a picture, a photograph of the Pentagon with an explosion. I don't know if any of you remember that. The stock market actually dipped when this went viral. And it was an AI-generated image that they created. We can't even trust pictures, photographs, videos, audios, anything. Check it, check it, check it. As a matter of fact, one of the slides that I have previously used was an AI-generated image. And there's something really off and wrong with it. Did anybody pick it up? 6 fingers. It wasn't 6 fingers, but you're close. We miss these things. Now, don't look at it now because we're going to go on with the presentation. But as a problem-solving exercise, see if you can tell what was wrong with one of the previous figures. Okay. And then timely. So these days, people are saying, we're more polarized now. Is that a fact or a story? It's a story. And one of the reasons it's a story, a lot of people are saying we're very polarized, but we're more than now, more than the Spanish Inquisition, more than the Civil War. I mean, you have to look at the time frame if you want to look at data and fact. So this is a useful tool that I use to say, hey, what is the truth? Let's get to the truth. Remember what our friend Benjamin Franklin said, the problem with quotes on the internet is that they're often not true. So let's get to the truth. Now, the other part of this is story. In my personal coaching business that I do, I have a client that just got riffed from the federal government. So she just, reduction in force, she lost her job. And there's an automatic reaction sometimes we have when we create a story. All she got was this notice saying, stop working, that's it, you're done. And wow, that's awful, that's terrible. This is unfair, I'm not being treated well. In my coaching practice, I said, one of the most important things in this type of change, and in any change, by the way, in the changes that maybe you are thinking about or wrote, is this question. This is a really important question. What is your story? What is the frame or the narrative you put around something? Really, really important. So when I did that, she contemplated deeply, and she said, you know what? I have amazing skills in data governance, in finance. These are going to be so needed. You know what, Len? I have great opportunities. I just talked to her last week. I told her I'd be mentioning this. She said, yeah, go ahead and mention it. But she is actually sitting in an amazing place because what she's done is taken some facts and put an empowering story around it. So in any big change that is difficult, put a story around it. My story around my brother is that even though it's tragic, it had me go on a completely different trajectory in life, and I'm so grateful for that. Okay, third foundational principle is that when there's big change, which there are in the world, we get tossed, we get spun, we get disoriented, there's turbulent seas, there's waves coming. We need an anchor. Otherwise, we're going to get tossed around. We need an anchor. Our anchor is our purpose. We need to be grounded in purpose. I shared with you, my purpose is to live well, which, by the way, was Aristotle's purpose, so I think I'm in good company. It means for me, to serve, to enjoy, to evolve. What is your purpose? That's another really empowering question and important. What is your purpose? Do you have one? Most people I talk to are not crystal clear on it. From my classes, maybe some of you know, I give optional homework. If you're not crystal clear on it, get crystal clear on it. Live your purpose. Now, I've also done consulting with many, many clients, and in times of big change, there's budget cuts, right? So that could be a big change, and I say, listen, you need to be really clear on your purpose in data governance and data management and data quality. Really, really ground in what is your purpose. One client I dealt with, a large pharmaceutical company, they said, well, yeah, our purpose is better quality data. It's to understand the data better. What do you think of that purpose? Now, for us, we might understand it. For the rest of the organization, they might look, and they did, by the way, like, okay, well, why is that important? I know it's obvious to us. So I asked another very important question. Why? 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 And they thought about this a lot. And they said, oh, you know what? If a patient has a little bit of healthcare data here, and then in another system they have other healthcare data that's inconsistent, and that patient goes in for healthcare, they could die. Literally, they could die. They got so motivated by the idea that, wow, our purpose is to save lives. That's what we do. Yeah, we create better quality data. It's to save lives or make people healthier. That's our purpose. They got so motivated, they created one of the most successful data governance programs I've seen, and it's centered around them knowing their purpose. By the way, that organization won the International Data Governance Achievement Award that was given here at this conference many years ago. They had a $20 million return on investment per year, but more importantly, they knew that they were saving lives. What is your purpose? One of my clients has a picture like this on their website. They said, would you drive like this with a fuzzy windshield? What they started doing, and what I did after that incident with my brother, is drive like this, with a clear direction. Fourth pillar is we are not in this alone. Any big change, we're not in this alone. In 2017, in the middle of the night in Puerto Rico, Emmanuel Osorio and his wife were jolted from their sleep at 2 a.m. by the window, the bedroom window, being torn off their building and flying into the darkness. It was Hurricane Maria. They lost electricity for weeks. They lost running water for weeks. They lost internet connectivity. People couldn't get their medical supplies. I mean, talk about a big change. Emmanuel not only lost his home, he lost his tourism business because that collapsed too. He said, what do I do? Rather than retreat into despair, which would have been understandable, this guy said, I'm going to be of service to my community. He took his car, he went to the airport, and he started giving people rides. And one of the people was with an organization called NetHope, which provides assistance for cases like this with technology, actually. And what Emmanuel did when he learned about it is he volunteered for the organization. He started delivering equipment, and he actually learned to link up satellites, do satellite links. They trained him on it. And he talked about, wow, what a great thing I'm doing here of serving my community. So instead of focusing on his personal losses, he really expanded. That's what we need to do. As a matter of fact, this was on the NetHope website from Emmanuel. He said, every day I watch how the team leader helps everyone work together to succeed. We have a fighting spirit and we have a lot of faith. We don't know how long it will take to get through this, but we will. The key word is we. Amazing, amazing. Now, we have a bit of a hurricane ourselves in this world. Would you agree? There's a lot of turbulence happening. Just this year in 2025, over 600,000 jobs have been cut in the United States. That's unprecedented. The stress levels, there's many reports about the stress levels going up. Like the WinWorld survey has said that 78% of the people in the world's workforce experience stress on a daily basis at different levels. And there's many other statistics like that. The economic indexes, like the VIX index, has literally gone very, very high. Things are volatile, things are turbulent. So we have a hurricane kind of figuratively happening. What do? We need to connect. So I have several communities. One of my communities is my Zen with Len group. I just met with him yesterday. And it's just online, it's free, people can just go. And what we do is we actually practice stopping. So we start with stop, do a little meditation, I give a little talk, and then we have a discussion. Like last week, we actually talked about community. How do we build community? Just like we're doing here in this amazing community. Now, in our data community, we also have this issue of separation. Have you noticed sometimes? Like we go out and a data governance person will say, you know what, let's build integrated systems, let's, on a project, hey, can we have common semantics and common data and integrate it? And often the project manager will say, oh, I completely support you as long as you don't affect my time budgets or anything at all. In other words, leave me alone. Leave me alone. We create these separate systems, separate data silos, and the silos come from people silos because people are separate. I call this issue data mining. You know data mining? Exploration of data? It's not that. It's not exploration of data. It's data mining. We have this issue of this data is mine. It's mine, 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 mine. And we need to move to data housing. Oh, what's data housing? Data housing is, hey, all data is connected. It's ours. A great example of this is another community that I belong to, which, by the way, I checked in. Anybody could belong to these communities. A bunch of AI and data developers. And we get together every week on Tuesday night, and they're making amazing products with AI, new product developments. And what's amazing about it is all different companies, and they're sharing exactly what they're doing. They're sharing their secrets. They're saying, we need to collaborate together and work on the future of AI together. And they're all creating amazing products. Like one of them I saw last week, it's like, wow, I'm going to do prompts that not only go against the web, but they go against documents, they go against a whole bunch of databases, and they're actually using some of my models too, so I'm contributing to say, hey, how do we integrate all this information during prompts? amazing stuff, and they're having fun doing it. So am I. So it's community. Now, did I make sense with these 4 foundational issues? If I did, let's have a pact. Are you in for a pact? Are you in for saying these 4 things, P-A-C-T, form purpose? Does it make sense, and do you buy in? Do you lean in to the idea of doing what's most important and focusing on that? Awesome. You could yell out yes if you want. You could yell out no. You could do whatever you want. But I invite you to join a pact. Does it make sense to be present, to be with what is, to have a clear mind, and that helps us move forward, not in a passive way, in a very active way? Yes, good. Does it make sense to connect, which is what this whole conference is about? It's wonderful with Damo, with Dataversity, with these amazing speakers, with such great friends that I've developed, with participants. Does that make sense to connect? Yes. Awesome. And does it make sense to actually get to the truth so we know when we see data, let's get to the truth. And instead of reacting and coming up with an automatic story, let's create a story that's empowering. Who's your script writer? Who's writing the script for you? Is it automatic, or do you consciously create a frame that's amazing? What do you think? Yes. Okay, so if you said yes to all of these, we are in this together. Alan Watts said, the only way to make sense of any type of change, especially difficult change, is to plunge in, to embrace it, to move with it, to join the dance. There's big waves happening. Instead of running away from the waves, what we need to do is get out our surfboard. What we need to do is ride the waves skillfully, not in a passive way, but we can't stop the wave. We are not unempowered. And with a lot of stuff going on, many people feel unempowered. We cannot control everything. We cannot control the wave, but we can control how we ride it. We can control those 4 things of having purpose, awareness. We can control our mind, of connecting with community and seeing the truth and creating stories. Very, very powerful things. We can do this together. How many people would like to surf together? And if you want to surf with me, take your phone. That's my contact information. Connect with me in any way. See me at the conference. I'm going to be doing a Zenin data with my Zenin session tomorrow morning. Join that. Connect with me any way you want, or better yet, connect as a group together. Let's do data hoursing together. We don't have to surf alone. We are not meant to surf alone. Maybe you find a few people that you've never met before and that you don't know, and you go up and you ask a question, not flippant, but in a very deep, heartfelt way, showing that you care. And you say, how are you? Really, how are you? How are you doing? I care. Thank you. Thank you.